Did the Ravens almost trade Rashod Bateman? Did I see that correctly? I don't know if you guys saw the exact same report that I did, but I'm seeing conflicting reports from different NFL insiders. We're going to get into everything on today's episode of the Ravens Rundown. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, clicking in, and watching today's video. Obviously, Bateman didn't get traded. He's still going to be a Baltimore Raven in 2025, knock on wood. And if you're happy that he didn't end up getting traded, do me one big favor and like today's video. Cast your vote in that way by hitting that thumbs up button. So Jordan Schultz is the one who broke the news yesterday afternoon, tweeting out sources during their pursuit of a receiver. The Cowboys also looked into a trade for Ravens wide receiver Rashod Bateman. Those talks didn't go far. Dallas ultimately struck a post-draft deal with Steelers for George Pickens. This was the deal to get George Pickens for the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers got a 2026 third, a 2027 fifth, and in return, the Cowboys got George Pickens, a massive headache, and a 2026 sixth-round pick. So originally, when I heard that tweet, when I saw that tweet, I was probably a lot like the rest of you guys. Automatically, you kind of think, oh, that's awesome, right? The Ravens, just shut down trade talks between Dallas and Rashod Bateman because they're just saying, no way we want to let this guy out of our sight. No way we want to let this guy off our roster. And originally you're saying, that's awesome. Good for Eric DeCosta. I would have done the exact same thing. I don't want Bateman going anywhere, and it's obvious that they don't either. But then a Dallas Cowboys insider responded to the George Schultz tweet twice. Here's the first one. He said, can confirm. Bateman was an option that was sought out by Dallas ahead of the draft, and the two sides couldn't meet on an agreement. And I read that, and I kind of start to think, two sides couldn't meet on an agreement. So there was deep discussions? Was this something that Baltimore was genuinely trying to hammer out? Now, obviously, they didn't want him gone enough because they didn't agree to terms. But there was talks. They just couldn't come to an agreement. And then Nick Harris followed up that tweet with saying, and when Jerry said two substantive trades or two substantive trades, you never really know what Jerry means with anything. It's healthy to assume that this was the other one in play. So like I said, you hear Jordan Schultz, and you kind of start to think, you know what, that's awesome. This thing didn't get close. But then you hear what Nick had to say, and it kind of changes your mind in a sense to possibly thinking they were a little bit closer to trading Bateman than I originally thought. Nick Hill's tweet makes it think that they had a lot of ongoing discussions, but they just couldn't hammer out the fine details. Maybe Baltimore wanted something a little bit more for him. Dallas wasn't willing to give it. Or maybe Dallas wanted something additionally with Rashod Bateman that Baltimore wasn't willing to give. But regardless, from Nick's tweet, all I'm seeing and all I'm hearing was that there were some pretty deep discussions about it. So what say you guys? Do you think Baltimore was close to trading Rashod Bateman? If you think so, let me know by answering yes down below in the comment section. And if you don't think so, then let me know by giving me a no. I probably sit somewhere on the fence. I'm playing Switzerland with this one. I don't think they weren't close, but I don't think like it was about to get signed in ink. You let me know down in the comments. And while you're all the way down there, make sure to click on the link that's also going to be down there, chatsports.com/Starks. This is the guy who is not going anywhere anytime soon. For his jersey, to rep it for the rest of your life, probably, hopefully, if you don't gain a ton of weight and can't fit in the jersey anymore. Chatsports.com/Starks is where you need to go. You get it in purple, you get it in white, you get it in black. It's not going to have the number 1. It's going to have his number 24 on it. I promise you, this guy is going to be a star for a very, very long time. This is a phenomenal investment. I said it the other day. This is like buying Apple stock in 2002. Okay? Now's the time to do it. Chatsports.com/Starks. That link is in the comments and description of today's video. So we're going to round this one out by talking about 3 reasons why I'm really happy that he didn't get traded. I honestly think that this is just the beginning for Rashod Bateman. You look at the year that he had last year, and it was really, really great. Some say he flashed onto the scene. His average catch was 16.8 yards. Phenomenal. He found pay dirt 9 different times. 756 yards, all on 45 catches. He was a constant, and I mean constant target for Lamar Jackson through the entirety of the 2024 season. It seemed like there were some games in the middle of the season where you're kind of like, where's Zay Flowers? I haven't seen Zay Flowers in a while. There's some games at the beginning of the season where you said the same thing as Mark Andrews. Also same thing as Isaiah Likely. It seemed like every single game you knew exactly where Rashod Bateman was. He had, in my opinion, although he didn't have the highest numbers, the best numbers, he had the most consistent year in 2024 of anybody in that wide receiver or pass catching room. And number two, speaking of Lamar, I'm just in the business of giving Lamar as many weapons as possible. If you trade away Rashod Bateman, what you're doing is probably getting some draft capital back and saying, we're going to invest in the future, which I think that's a good idea when you have a franchise quarterback. But if you have a franchise quarterback mixed with this roster as it's currently constructed, you can go win a Super Bowl. You don't get rid of a guy who just scored 9 touchdowns for you. You don't do that, especially when you had another guy in that wide receiver room in DeAndre Hopkins over the offseason. This is the strongest receiver room that Lamar Jackson has ever had. And then you look into the running back room and you say, okay, you still got Derrick Henry. You still got Justice Hill, who maybe doesn't give you that much in the run game, but he is possibly the best pass-catching running back in the National Football League. And then you look at the tight end room. If you weren't going to trade away Mark Andrews because you want Lamar to have weapons, you better not trade away Zay Flowers either, okay? Or, Rashod Bateman either. And so I'm in the business of keeping guys like Rashod Bateman on this team. Because if you're a defensive coordinator and you're looking at Baltimore's offense and you say, okay, let's think about this logistically. They've got an MVP for a quarterback who also is as fast as most running backs in the National Football League. I got to worry about him. Okay, they got a 6'4", 250-pound running back who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Got to worry about him. They got wide receiver in Zay Flowers, who was the shiftiest wide receiver in football. They also have Mark Andrews, 14 touchdowns this last year. They also have Isaiah Likely. They also have Rashod Bateman. They also have DeAndre Hopkins. Like, Baltimore is the defensive coordinator's worst nightmare. And if you start taking away some of those threats, it gets a little bit easier to defend. Not easy at all, but a little bit easier. I'm all about surrounding Lamar with as many weapons as we can. And then the last reason is he proved to be a phenomenal deep ball threat in 2025, okay? Like, we saw it in multiple games against New York, against Tampa Bay. His deep target rate was 22.2% in 2024. That was the highest on this team by a long shot. Zay Flowers was something like 16%. Rashod Bateman is a totally different wide receiver, okay? Rashod Bateman fits in perfectly with this system. We saw it last year, and I promise you we're going to see it this year. So whether the trade talks were super deep and it was almost a possibility, or whether it was more of a, what are you going to offer us? Okay, no, we're not interested. That's a possibility as well. Regardless, they made the right decision by keeping Rashod Bateman on this roster. They made the right choice. Because when you have a franchise MVP winning quarterback, and you got a defense that's rounded together, going to be in year 2 of a defensive coordinator. You added Malaki Starks. You added Mike Green, a ton of really great young pieces. This feels like the team that if it's ever going to happen, it's going to be with this 53-man roster that they trot out in September. So don't take one of your best wide receivers off that roster. I'm so happy that they didn't. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys for joining us today. We cover the Ravens every single day, so if you're new here, glad you stuck around to the end. Just lock us in. Let's make this thing Facebook official and subscribe.